Hi Gemini, it's Jenny here with your June Tarot Horoscope. So we're just going to be pulling a single card for the month of June to see what's coming up for you. And of course for some of you, it's a birthday coming up for you. So happy birthday, Gemini. So the first 2/3 of the month is Gemini season, of course, and then we'll have solstice, which is the summer solstice if you're in the northern hemisphere, or the winter solstice if you're in the south, and then starting at solstice is Cancer season. So just gonna see what's coming up for you for June. And we have the Four of Wands reversed. So this is the way he looks the right way up. We have this group of people, 3 people, and they're kind of dancing and playing music, having a nice time. There's these wands kind of forming this structure with all these garlands over top. And then we also have these kinds of like crutches or sticks holding up another sort of red wreath, sort of more like drawn less literally there as well. There's this book, either it's a music score above them all, and it was like this. Okay, let's see what the Four of Wands has to say for you, Gemini. Four of Wands, the wonders of creation. Dance, music, and play are united in this picture. Blue-green garlands can be seen above the figures and blue flowers below. The 4 wands are framed by 2 typical dolly crutches and a red ribbon, cloth, or ornament. The sheet music reminds us of a heavenly score or a divine instruction book. One might assume that it is God's will for us to dance, sing, and be merry, but also that our human merriments are small and go around in circles unless we take the higher dimensions of our being into consideration. In many cultural traditions, a blue flower represents the mysteries of life and the wonders of creation. The term wonders of creation pertains to our most intimate, our most difficult, and most beautiful experiences. Birth, marriage, and death, which may be represented by the 3 figures, always take us to the very limits of our understanding. Through being confronted with these sometimes frightening, sometimes wonderful, but always amazing limits to our comprehension, we develop a hunger for culture, a yearning to express that which really moves us through music, play, and dance. All truly creative endeavors are born out of testing our limits in some ways. Parties and cultural events may either inspire us or divert us to the extent that we almost lose track of ourselves. This card is all about rediscovering what really moves you, deepening your understanding of yourself as you climb up the ladder of life. Practical advice. Avoid petty solutions and false compromises. Neither forget nor hide your true motives and authentic feelings. They are the true source of your motivation and will guarantee your greatest successes. Well, this is a great card for birthday season. This is all about partying, feeling good, feeling the joy and merriment and life and culture and creativity that is expressed through excitement and cutting back and being in community. And so there's this element of play, of frivolity, but also like it's a bit of a paradox because there's that feeling of light and merriment, which often does seem like frivolous, not very serious, not very stern, but it's talking about, the celebration that comes from deeply pivotal and important life events. Birth, when you're, celebrating your birthday, it's all really good and fun, but like your birth was a messy, bloody process with a lot of risk and a lot of reward in the actual birthing process. So the birth itself, though we may celebrate it in frivolity later, is a very intense experience. And marriage and death and all of the big things, the reason that we choose to celebrate things is usually because they were momentous. And so there's this tying of celebration, which is joyous, light, fun, connected, with what is it you are celebrating is usually something quite momentous, possibly very intense while you're experiencing it at the time, so much so that it gets an anniversary that we then get to celebrate, and we remember, and we want to remember because these things were such like deep and important moments. So this connection to play and celebration with intensity or the really peak moments, a peak or low moments that really marks us as human beings living in culture and relation with each other, is a really nice kind of marrying of concepts that are often kind of separated. Like there's play and it's light and it's nice, but also there's always more serious things to be done, and then serious things are serious and it's not fun, and it's like it's emotional and intense, and like those are 2 different things that you're kind of often told, like work and then play. and they're separate instead of celebrating that which caused us to work because it was something very important, and then we get to enjoy the fruits of the labor and what it is that those events have created in us and changed us. Things that yeah, marking those celebrations, those anniversaries is often a great way to see how am I different now? What has changed in time past? And marking time, celebrations through all cultures, repetitive celebrations are often a way to mark time, whether they're seasonal celebrations. This is great also coming up because the end of Gemini season in 2/3 of June is solstice. That is, of course, a deeply like pivotal and in many cultures celebrated tradition, that is something that changes us as well and sees what has happened since last solstice, and it is of itself representative of the union of life and death, and whether you're in the northern hemisphere and life is at its peak, but darkness is about to creep back in, or you're in the dark of winter in the southern hemisphere, but the light's about to come in, that duality and how balance of light and dark, happy, sad, frivolity and discipline, that balance is there, but balance doesn't look like 50-50 all the time. Balance is fluid. It's not static. It can look like, oh, it tips one side, and as we get to solstice where it's the most extreme, and then balance involves coming into equilibrium, but then tipping far to the other side. But so in one snapshot instance, you might not have balance, but balance is seen on this continuum. And that's the same in your life story. You can take any one snippet, any one moment and say, oh, that was happy. Or you can take a snippet and say, that was hard and angry and not great. But to judge your entire life by one of those little slivers is not going to show the balance of the whole. It's not going to see the life as it unfolds in its cyclical spiraling pattern where you can say, that's a life. Can you say if it's good or bad? Well, is it good because it had lots of happy? Is it bad because it had lots of hard? Or are all of those things, these things that we celebrate and we mark the passing, whether we celebrate in mourning and emotion and grief, or we celebrate in dancing and joy, that's a life. That's a life well lived and lived to the full experience of what it is to be an existing human. Then that is that whole, the wonders of creation. That it's wondrous in the way that you can be awestruck, and that's not always a pleasant feeling, but it's always remarkable. So yeah, this card is it's very like, yeah, it's bigger than it just looks like. And this is, yeah, a really great card to show up in your birthday season and right at solstice as well. And Gemini in general is a very, like, it's a light season. It's, it's fun. Hallmarks of Gemini are often playfulness and joking, tricks around, not being so bogged down by things that are stern and serious, sometimes lacking in discipline, sometimes lacking in follow through, but also intercommunication, and connection with people. And this sort of experience of the dance and the music is all about connection and play. And so there's, yes, this invitation, bring in that Gemini of delight and that like wonder of the possibilities, and creating, who knows what you can create. You can create whatever you want, is kind of that invitation of Gemini, which is nothing is set in stone, nothing is guaranteed, and you don't have to be so serious about it. Just play and create. But it's also like Gemini can maybe get a bad rap sometimes for being just really frivolous. And some people may feel like, oh, you can't take anything seriously, but again, like, this card is reminding us that play and celebration can be in this container of the heaviness of life and the majesty that comes from concepts of death and loss and grief, just as much wrapped up with delight and birth and creation and love and joy. So Gemini you don't have, just looking on the bright side and just having that light and enjoyment doesn't mean you are unaware of the things that may be harsh in life. It doesn't mean that you don't take things seriously just because you choose to play, just because you might choose to not latch so tightly to the idea of things being so stern and serious. So that's, I hope that's a bit validating if that's how some people kind of view you. Yeah, that's sort of what I'm going to bring up for that. So yeah, this this concept of culture as well is an interesting thing to bring up too, in terms of it's like a unifying and multi-generational concept, like things that join us to our ancestors and our lineage, the things that we do repetitively, the things that make us and our communities unique over time is often what shapes this culture. And so you get to participate in that which has been gifted to you from those before you, and as you participate, you are also, and maybe also changing it, adding your little flavor, because culture is also not the rigid rules, the handbook that stays static forever. Culture evolves, and you are a part of that evolution. So you can shape, this that tension between tradition and evolution, where there's the things that we do because they're the way they've been done, and then sometimes the desire to break free and do something new. And again, that's even the sort of solstice feeling of light and dark and balance, where you always need both. You need the structure, the wisdom, the tradition, the things that sustain and give us continuity. We need that. And we also don't want to be static. We don't want to be stagnant. Things change around us, and so we need to change too. So evolution and growth and being different and flexible, we also need. And at different times in our lives and different times in our cultures and communities, it may be better to be in, a solstice of greater change and evolution, and really, really examining our traditions and throwing a lot of those old things out, or maybe not just saying rejecting them, but creating them anew and making them more available to the time we live in now. And in other times, leaning more into a solstice of tradition and wisdom, and going back to eldership and going back to roots, and seeing, the wisdom that it's easy to just say, nah, that's just, that's the silly way, that they didn't understand the way we live now. And there are so many things that are totally new in the life we live now, but the concepts that we humans face, grief, birth, marriage, loss, pain, excitement, those unifying forces that, the outside trappings may change as community or culture, technology, time moves forward, but those concepts are unifying, and they carry us through time and connect us to the past and the future, because they don't change that much. What it is to feel joy in a birth, what it is to feel loss, that is unifying through time and culture. So there's this very nuanced connection in this card of this lightness and fun, but it wraps up just the sum total of the wonder of what it is to be alive, the wonder and pain and all of that, that you get to celebrate with and party with and play with this month. It's an interesting one to bring in for your birthday season, and to think about in solstice, and think about, the change in tradition and what it is that you want to be balancing, that being in extremes at different times is still part of the whole cycle of balance. This is lots to play with, getting re-injected and excited with what does inspire you, whatever that might be, and connecting not just on your own inspiration, but connecting with community and culture as well, is kind of the invitation for you this month. Solstice is going to be that kind of peak. And then we're in Cancer season, and so that's more the invitation now to nurture. There's a little bit more leaning to birth energy with the concept of the mother. The mother is holding that is that newborn energy, whether it's an idea, a real life being, projects, relationships, something new and fresh, but still vulnerable, that needs care and love, is what the Cancer mother energy is, to inject that love and care until it's grown and can stand on its own. So we might be looking at themes of birth a little bit more. You guys are just having your birthday, we're having mother energy, there might be more talk of birth, again, literal or figurative, but that's also, birth is always connected in that cycle. That which is born will eventually die. Things that die provide nutrition and sustenance for the things that are born again. So even if we're in the solstice of birth, where we might feel like there's more birth energy, that little seed of death is there. And when there's times where we have more death in our lives, there's a little seed of life always. That's kind of what's coming up for this particular month. And I think I'm just going to leave it with that. I'm going to let you kind of take that and play with it how you're going to. And I would highly recommend, because you're Gemini and Gemini season, to take a look at my Gemini workshop. It's up on my YouTube channel. It's pay what you can, and it's got a lot more information on the planetary transits, so different energies that are going to be kind of helping focus different areas of your life and see what's coming up there. So that is going to be quite relevant up until solstice. So do go check it out. Again, it's pay what you can, so it's always accessible. And that's it for now, Gemini. Happy birthday to you all, and I will see you next month.